Many people know the name Henry Ford, and at the same time, those people do not know the name James Couzens. Yet without James Couzens, Henry Ford could never have built Ford Motor Company into the incredible auto manufacturer that they are today. Now in today's video, we are going to be talking about the book Rocket Fuel and discussing the differences between visionaries and integrators. At the end of this video, I bet you're going to find out some surprising features about your own self and your own strengths and weaknesses that could turn into incredible advances in both your business and personal relationships. Now today, we're going to be talking about the differences between visionaries and integrators as it's laid out in the book Rocket Fuel. And I bet you by the end of this video, you're going to learn some surprising things about yourself that could turn into big advances in your next business or personal relationship. What's up everyone? My name is Jonathan. Welcome to the Jono Show. Thank you so much for following along with us. We are on book number 2 of this year, and this year is going to be incredible for the book reviews that we're going to be doing. The book list that we're putting together is absolutely phenomenal. So what I've been doing is I've been reading one book every single week, taking that book, writing copious notes, and then transitioning that into a YouTube video for you all as a little bit of a book summary. Now, today we're going to be talking about this book, Rocket Fuel. Rocket Fuel is a book by Gino, Wickman, and Mark C. Winters, and they're also authors of another book called Traction and What the Heck is EOS. There's actually a whole EOS system that is built around some of the topics covered in this book right here. This book was recommended to me by some mentors, some people I really respect, and I've had so many people in the entrepreneur community reach out to me and say, you absolutely have to read this book. So I finally picked it up, and today we are going to be going through a review of this book. Now, I'm going to try to make it as short as possible because I could go on and on and on about this book, and I cannot tell you the incredible personal unlock that I felt like this had in my life. As I'm looking at the different things that they talk about, the different personality types between visionaries and integrators, it was so clear to me that I'm a classic visionary. And that understanding is really gonna help propel me towards not only better personal relationships, but better business relationships where I'm able to do more of what I love and less of what I don't love. As business owners, who doesn't want that, right? We all want to have that freedom of time. That's why we started businesses in the first place generally. But when we're wrongly categorized in our business, when we're doing the incorrect jobs, we're oftentimes not leveraging our strengths and instead spending most of the time trying to figure out how to make up for our weaknesses. Now, if you're anything like me, you know how frustrating that is. And so in today's book, we're gonna talk about the differences between the visionary type of person, the integrator type of person, and really how those two people can work well together as these guys here, Gino Wickman and Mark Winters, lay out for us. So let's get right into it. So the book overall is a shorter book. It's less than 200 pages, and it has about 7 chapters in it. It's a wonderful short read. The authors really get right to the point in this, and there's a bunch of things that are little cheat sheets, worksheets that you can use, quizzes to help you understand, are you more of a visionary type or are you more of an integrator type? So definitely recommend picking this book up. I have taken some notes, so I'm going to be referring to them at different points, but the takeaways here were really what was impactful to me. And if you're anything like me, if you do have some of that visionary streak in you and you're watching this and you're listening to this going, oh my gosh, this is totally me, please seriously pick up a copy of this book because you're going to want to go through it, take notes. I know I highlighted the heck out of this book. At any given page, it's so colorful, but yeah, I feel like there's not really a page that's not totally marked up with little pieces like all throughout. But anyway, a lot of fun. So the first chapter lays out what is a visionary, it lays a little bit of the context for what we're talking about here. And they first talk about the visionary, who this person is, what they are actually like in an organization, and just really personally, if anything. Now, part 1 is all about the context, and chapter 1 really delves into what a visionary actually is. As the name implies, a visionary is someone who sets the big vision for the company. They're the idea generator. They create kind of the direction that the whole company is going. And oftentimes they're the founder of the company or the owner of the company. Many times though, the authors are saying that these visionaries end up doing a bunch of different jobs because typically they are the ones who take a company from, the idea phase all the way on through the rest of the life cycle. And so without realizing that you are a visionary, without appropriately understanding how your role fits in the company, you can end up highly frustrated and really have a company that gets stuck at a certain level of growth because you're not able to help the company evolve any further. Now, for me, this was really, really funny because as I look at some of these notes that I put down, things that I am, right? Or that a visionary type would be, entrepreneurial spark plug, inspire, passion. They're the developer of new ideas, breakthroughs, big problem solver. All these things are definitely things that I absolutely love and enjoy and come really naturally to me in my organization. And this may be you as well. Here's what I'm not. I have too many ideas. I sweat the details. Details are tough for me. Whiplash within the organization. I point the organization this way, and then I have a new idea, and I say, let's try something else. That whiplash caused in an organization can be really, really detrimental. Developing talent is sometimes hard. Communication of what my vision is can often be challenging for me. And just reading through this and realizing that other people are having this problem as well was really, really gave me a sense of relief and made me feel like I'm totally not alone in this. And there are people out there that will perfectly complement my skill set to help me grow companies really, really big. Now, the big point at the end of this chapter was just to embrace your nature. Don't feel like you constantly have to be fighting against yourself. And if I cannot leave you with anything else but one thing, I would leave you with that point. If you feel like you have a certain gifting in a certain area, don't ignore that. Don't fight against yourself to develop yourself out in a bunch of different areas. Certainly try to work on your weaknesses, but really dig deep into what you're good at, what your strong suit is, and put yourself around other people who can complement that so that you can work off of each other. Now, chapter 2 is all about the integrator. Who is an integrator? What is this position? Well, the integrator position is the person generally who's able to take that big vision and distill it down into more actionable steps. They're the person who goes and has the communication with the team. They set some of the goals and standards. They're a lot better at keeping on track with tracking where the progress has been made in those goals. They're great at P&Ls, developing the team out, managing the day-to-day tasks. They definitely have the details side of things locked in. Now, at the same time, this person isn't a technician necessarily. They're a person that can take the big ideas from the visionary and distill them down a little bit more into actionable steps that the rest of the team can understand. So as I was reading this book, I felt like there was another category of person, if we want to put it like that was a technician. And I think that oftentimes you see people like technicians who do start companies because they become incredible at one specific role. They realize there's a big hole in the market and they go off and they start a company only to realize that maybe they don't have the visionary side of things. They are not an integrator. And so they struggle unless they realize that that's their role and they can hire those other pieces. So again, going back to the point of embracing your role and not fighting against yourself when you start realizing your strengths and weaknesses within an organization. Now, some of the struggles that they talk about the integrators have, there's no glory. They're often called a pessimist. They are going too slow. They say no a lot. They are the people who are providing the discipline, providing the accountability. And so it's really, really tough a lot of times to constantly be holding that line in an organization, especially when you have this wild visionary who's constantly looking to break the rules and kind of push the bounds of what they are actually trying to do in the company. But those two roles are so important. It's important to have someone stretching the rubber band and then someone who's trying to keep things tight within the organization. That's how you keep up good customer service. That's how you continue a company and keep it going along. And just like I was referring to in the beginning with the mention of Henry Ford, it said that Henry Ford couldn't even have operated a small grocery store, let alone this large auto manufacturer. But it was in fact James Cousins who was able to take the big vision that Henry Ford had and really distill it down into actionable steps that there was a management team, a leadership team that was able to execute the vision that Henry Ford had. So that pair was essential. And the authors say that in many big businesses, most of the big businesses we see nowadays, there is that visionary integrator combo to enable really explosive growth. Now, chapter 3 is all about the relationship between the two people. How do you have a good relationship between the visionary and the integrator? And because of all these things that I've been sharing, there's of course bound to be so much friction between the two roles. So as these two people are thinking about working with one another, it's important to realize that not every visionary can work with every integrator. and vice versa. As a visionary, you need to realize that there are certain integrators that you can work with very well, and there are certain integrators that will frustrate you and not be the right fit. So as you're considering this, as maybe you're listening to this and thinking, I'm totally a visionary or I'm totally an integrator, that doesn't necessarily mean you should just run out and find the first person who is opposite from you and try to start a business with them. Instead, pick up this book first, really, and read it, but instead drill more into the details. And that's really what they talk about in chapters 4 through 6. Now, the important thing when you think about the different roles between visionary and integrator, it's important to note that there is a spectrum, and they call it here the visionary spectrum. Different businesses need different things from a visionary and need different things from an integrator. Every single business doesn't need a Steve Jobs type or a person with a massive, massive vision. A lot of times there are differences in industries that actually mean that you need less or more of one or the other of the roles. And they talk about 3 different things that will determine how much of each of these roles you need. So they talk about the industry type, the growth aspirations of the company. Do you want to go really fast? Do you want to grow slow? How do you feel about the growth and what are the aspirations for that in the company? And then also the degree of market change or complexity. Now, I think this is a really important point because you can have a tech company versus a property management company. The examples they use in the book, one property management company is a little bit more slower changing. I know certainly in the wedding industry, things are a little bit slower to change versus if you're in a startup tech environment where things are constantly changing and the systems and tools everyone's using, maybe even changing, quarter to quarter, year to year. You really need, as an organization within that industry, you need a visionary that's constantly trying to push the bounds and develop new ideas that will help push the company forward. Now, another thing they talk about is, are you ready? As a visionary or as an integrator, are you prepared to partner with someone else with this role? And they talk about a couple of different things, a couple of different metrics that will help you understand whether you're ready or not. So some of those are financial readiness, affordability. I thought it was kind of funny. They said for any visionary reading this, whatever you think it's going to cost to bring on an integrator, multiply it by 50%, because oftentimes visionaries are concerned about the financial impact of bringing someone on. Yet at the same time, that role is so essential to creating massive business growth that it will well pay for itself. But it was kind of an interesting note because I think that as visionaries, often we don't understand the importance if we're not honest with ourselves with the role of the integrator. But when we really start understanding our strengths and weaknesses, we understand things that we shouldn't be doing, just like we understand the things we should be doing within our organization. It really becomes apparent how much of a value this integrator personality type does have. So yeah, they talk about financial readiness, the affordability component, psychological readiness. Are you really ready to let go? Are you really ready to release some of those responsibilities to someone else in your organization? Do you have lifestyle readiness? Do you have unique ability readiness? There are a lot of these issues that are coming up when you're thinking about bringing someone on in this role, because they're handling the practical day-to-day aspects of your organization. And many founders, because it's their baby and they have the idea and then they create it and scale it up to a certain amount, it's very hard to let go. Business is very personal. And for any of the entrepreneurs out there, how personal you take your business. And so this is definitely a emotional piece here where you do have to release, you do have to let someone else, take over the day-to-day operations, and certainly that's scary for many people. Now, part 2 of this book is all about the how-tos. They spent all of part 1 talking about the different definitions of what the different roles were, and in part 2 they talk about how these are supposed to work together. Chapter 4 goes into the accountability chart and basically how to keep both of the roles accountable. And there's a really cool point in here, I have it marked. The accountability chart is basically this layout. So it'll be something like this, where you'll actually have almost like an organizational chart, but within that organizational chart, you'll have the visionary at the top, the integrator, and then you'll want to make sure that both of those roles have clearly defined duties and responsibilities so that you're not stepping outside your boundaries. And chapter 5 goes through different rules. There are 5 different rules that are important. They are: stay on the same page, no end runs, An end run is where that you will basically be going around someone else. Maybe an employee in the organization will go directly to the visionary because that's what they're used to. And then the visionary will take it and basically go around the integrator. And that can really wreak havoc in an industry. So that's what an end run would be. The integrator is the tiebreaker. So while the integrator does report to the visionary, it's important to note, and they repeat this multiple times in the book, that the integrator and the visionary have got to work together. And part of that is making sure that the visionary respects the integrator's opinion and point of view. And as they're talking about things, if necessary, the integrator is the tiebreaker. Number 4 is you're an employee when working in the business. And then 5, maintaining mutual respect. And 4 is really important because I think so many founders, when they start working in their business, when they're not working on it, but when they're taking one of the roles of the business, they oftentimes break all of the rules because they feel like, this is my company, I started it. I know I've certainly been guilty of that, and that can definitely cause a lot of damage, when you're not following the same rules that you set for everyone else. A, it doesn't set a good example, and B, it really, really, really will grate against your integrator, and it'll really hurt them from doing the best job that they can. So maintaining mutual respect, that's kind of a no-brainer, but again, a super powerful piece when working with another person, especially a very high functioning person that's supposed to push the organization to the next level. Chapter 6 is all about finding each other. How do you find these two roles? They encourage going on their website and having people sign up for the role that they feel like, and it could be kind of like a matchmaking system. I have heard from some people that it may not be the most responsive system, but at the same time, when you know that you're a visionary, or you're an integrator, or the tendencies that you have, now all of a sudden in the organizations, the networking groups, the book clubs, the group chats, the clubhouse rooms, whatever you're on, right? Instagram, Facebook groups, whatever it is, right? Even LinkedIn. Now you kind of know the tendencies that you have, and you can relate to people and say, hey, I tend to be more of a visionary, or I tend to be more of an integrator. And when other people are self-aware enough about themselves to know that as well, you can start having a lot more mature discussion than just trying to randomly find people. But the book goes a step further. They really lay out a bunch of things. They even have some job description templates. They have a bunch of different encouragement, both for integrators and for visionaries, about the patience and the tactics that they would take to go find the other person. As an integrator, it can often feel like a thankless job, like they said in the beginning, but they just wanted to remind the reader that the integrator is such an essential role, and the visionary needs them. Just like we talked about Henry Ford. Henry Ford couldn't have done it without James Couzens, and James Couzens couldn't have done it without Henry Ford. And so that relationship is essential, and that mutual respect they talk about throughout the whole thing really brings both positions to an equal standing when you think about an organization. So it's not that one is greater than the other. Both have to work in synergy for an organization to grow to a massive level. Chapter 7 is all about patience. How do you find that person? What happens if you make mistakes? They really want to urge you to just keep trying again. And after reading this book, I truly believe that having this mindset, having this understanding about who I am as a visionary, the tendencies that I have, means that I don't have to fight myself. I can actually relax a little bit, and I can go find someone who will really complement the skills that I have, and we can work together to create a really incredible company that's able to serve a lot of people. One of the other things that I found really interesting about this book was, immediately in my life, I start thinking about the people that I have worked with and people that I find it easy to work with. And I feel like they have integrator tendencies. I feel like people in the companies that I've run in the past who we can really, really click with, typically happens when I respect, the role that they have, and I let them do their thing, and I kind of release a lot of the responsibilities that they need to be getting done to them without micromanaging. And they do have those integrator characteristics, and so it's funny, without even reading this book, I kind of see these patterns already happening in my life. And, if you're listening, if you're an integrator, if you're a visionary, you probably will see these as well. One other note that I want to say, this book really defines the application for a visionary and an integrator, starting at the $2 million mark, all the way on up to, I want to say they said 250 million, or maybe it's 50 million. I don't know exactly, but the use case for this book is in that range. So a big question for me was, what happens when you're scaling from 0 to that 2 million mark? I think a lot of times it's up to the visionary to wear a number of different hats or find other employees or managers in the company that can do that. And then they talk about finding an integrator from within the organization. And I think that's the best way to do it. You know, if you can communicate your vision effectively, if you can gather people around you, from those people, you'll be able to see those who have ambition, who can see your vision, but may not be a pure visionary and may have a lot of those characteristics of an integrator that you're gonna need to grow the company to the next level. So as a leader, as a business leader, you need to be on the lookout for folks like that, folks you can trust, develop a good relationship with. And then as an integrator, you know, you need to be on the lookout for a visionary that you can get passionate about what they're passionate about, that you can see some of their vision, that you can get behind, and you know, someone who you can enjoy working with. You know, it's not necessarily working for, it's really a synergistic relationship that allows both people to express their gifts and abilities to the highest level. So anyway, guys, I highly recommend you pick up this book, Rocket Fuel. Thank you so much for watching these book reviews. I have so much fun reading these books because it gives me inspiration and it makes me feel like you know, someone has already kind of figured it out before me. And there's so many resources out there, whether it's Audible books, whether it's actual physical books, whether it's YouTube videos. You know, the information is out there. Don't let too much information slow you down, but at the same point, realize that anything you want to do is figure outable, right? Like you can figure it out. People have done it before. People have done more with less than you're working with right now. And so whatever it is that you're trying to work on, get out there, be hungry, look for the resources, look for the people, ask the right people, right? Or ask people if they know the right people. Don't let anything get in your way to achieving your dreams, because there's really no reason. You know, why not you? There are other people who have done it. Why not you? So just want to leave you with that little bit of inspiration. Thanks for watching the channel. Please make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. We are trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers. It's a big goal. I want to provide as much value here as I can, and we are going to continue to be pushing out tech reviews and book reviews just like this, as well as all sorts of things on mindset and business and live streaming and all sorts of different things that that I'm passionate about, and I know many of you are passionate about as well. So, all right, guys, that's it for now. We'll see you in the next video.